We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Immediately upon the news of this opinion coming out, we saw Joe Biden and other notable figures saying it's time to codify Roe v. Wade into law. But as well, we also witnessed an incredible amount of purposeful misinterpretations of what Roe v. Wade actually is. Well, to help us sift fact from fiction, we have with us author and editor James Fite. Welcome back to the show, Jim.
Hey, thanks, Mark.
So first question, Jim. What can President Biden and the Democrat-led Congress do to enshrine a right to abortion into law?
Are you asking that, constitutionally now that SCOTUS has ruled, or are you asking like practically as in their votes? Because it's kind of two different answers.
Well, let's start with the constitutional one. How would they go about doing this?
All right. So assuming that they want to just pass a law, what they'll need is what they need for any law, right? They're going to need just a simple majority in the House, and they're going to need 60 votes in the Senate, or they're going to have to nuke the filibuster and get 50 votes in the Senate or more. And, if they only have 50, then of course the vice president to break the tie. And they can do that.
Now, let's dive into that quickly a second, Jim.
Sure.
Bernie Sanders came out almost immediately saying that if needed, we should nuke the filibuster. Now, doesn't that set a dangerous precedent?
Oh, absolutely. That means whoever happens to have just a simple majority trifecta gets to dictate all the law in the nation for however long that lasts. I mean, and you see it, especially here lately. There's been a lot of tit for tat politics, right? You've seen it in Senate confirmations. You see it everywhere, and so get rid of the filibuster, and that's precisely what you'll see in federal legislation changing every 2 to 6 years.
So continue. How would the process go then? Let's say that they aim for 60 votes. Is that possible to get?
Yeah, at this point, I don't think they can get the 60 votes, Mark, which is the same problem they had the last time. They were trying to pass, and I guess this time they'll be trying to pass as well, what was called the Women's Health Protection Act. It was sort of an attempt to codify Roe, but it goes a little farther than what the practical reality of what Roe has actually done.
And what are the differences there?
Right. So Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, both self-declared pro-choice Republicans, actually opposed this bill and then introduced their own that didn't go anywhere. And what they wanted to do was basically what Roe does. No state can restrict abortion before the point of viability for any reason at all. And then abortions would still be allowed after viability for medical exceptions. And I think they would also have the rape and incest exception as well. So what the Women's Health Protection Act actually does is all of that, plus they want to do away with all of the restrictions before viability.
Okay, and which the Supreme Court now says is unconstitutional.
Right. Because what the Supreme Court now says is this is the sort of thing that the people should vote on when they vote for their local, their state representatives and governors and such. This is a state issue. The power resides in the people, not, 9 judges on the court.
So that's the thing. Before Roe v. Wade 50 years ago, the power to legislate over abortions rested with the individual states. And what we're seeing now is, I believe there's a majority of states, not necessarily a majority of people, just a majority of states, right, that have some form of abortion restriction beyond that which we're used to talking about, I guess, with the coastal superstates.
Right. Yeah, there are 26 states that either have an abortion law already on the books or are working on a trigger law. Like, okay, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, this is what it's going to be. And some of these laws, by the way, aren't new. They're simply the law that was in effect when Roe v. Wade occurred and then became unenforceable. In fact, some of this is actually codified in some state constitutions.
Okay, so now, Jim, what happens if Congress does pass a law and the president signs it into law? What happens next?
All right, so they could, assuming that we overcome the practical hurdles of there just not being enough votes. Let's pretend like either A, there's no filibuster and there's enough people to support it, or there is a filibuster and there's even more people to support it. In this draft, which isn't official opinion yet, but very well could be, the conclusion begins with, and I quote, "We end this opinion where we began. Abortion presents a profound moral question. The Constitution does not prohibit the citizens of each state from regulating or prohibiting abortion. Roe and Casey arrogated that authority. We now overrule those decisions and return that authority to the people and their elected representatives. And then there's the final closing. But what that says is the federal government has no say in this. This is a state issue. So Congress could pass and Biden could sign a nationwide abortion protection, anywhere from simply codifying Roe to saying, hey, it's just a free for all. And let's say they nuke the filibuster to do this. And in 4 to 6 years, we have a Republican trifecta. They could pass a law that says abortion is banned 100% across the nation, but neither of those laws would square with how the Supreme Court ruled on this issue. So, I mean, they could still be passed, but when they're challenged, not if, because let's face it, both laws would immediately be challenged, the Supreme Court is almost certain to rule, hey, that's unconstitutional. Remember, we said that isn't the federal government's job.
So is there really any way for Joe Biden and his fellow Democrats to get what they want as things stand at the moment?
It depends on what they want. If they want plenty of attention, some fundraising, and maybe to kind of help mitigate the disaster that is sure to be the midterm elections for them, yeah, absolutely, they're on path. If they actually want codified Roe or for Roe to not be overturned, then court packing is certainly looking like it's on the table again.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talking about court packing until they get a favorable majority, I guess is the point.
Right.
But the problem with that is it's a never-ending train, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that same tit-for-tat politics. I mean,
Yeah, eventually you'll be on the Supreme Court as well, Jim.
That's it. And you know where I'm going to rule on the issue.
I think we can guess, Jim. Now, How do you see people in states reacting to this should, on the day that supposedly Roe v. Wade disappears, what's going to happen in those state legislatures?
Right. So what we're seeing now, and we've seen for a while, and what I'm pretty sure we're going to see if this does become official opinion, is really democracy at work. I wrote in a piece for LibertyNation.com that it's kind of ironic that the Democratic Party is the one that opposes this. What could possibly be more democratic? But so the states in which the majority of the voters don't want abortion, they're going to continue to elect representatives, senators, and governors who don't want abortion. And you will see abortion restricted in those states, whereas in other states, it will be either remain to be allowed or it will be specifically protected.
The equalization of America, just not in the way they wanted it. James Flight, thank you ever so much.
I appreciate it, man.
You're listening to Liberty Nation Radio, heard across the Radio America network from our flagship station in the nation's capital, WWRC in Washington, D.C. Remember, you can tune in for Liberty Nation on WBAC on 1340 AM out of Dalton, Georgia. Coming up next, we have an extended special Talking Liberty segment with constitutional attorney Scott DeCosenza on the legal position of abortion in America and what it really means. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
We're doing it for real, really real. Liberty Nation.
And Jeff Charles, contributor for
I think we're
LibertyNation.com.
starting to make an impact. Liberty style, fight for freedom.
The tracking poll sponsored by Liberty Nation for Thursday.
Mentioned by Dan Bongino, Rasmussen, Jordan Peterson, and
I
others.
can do it again if you want me to.
Cited in Mark Levin's American Marxism.
I think we're starting to make a really big impact. Get noticed. We're doing it. Rock on. I'm gone.